Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Application Security Podcast / OWASP Board of Directors Debate. My name is Chris Romeo. I am the CEO of Davici. That is the threat modeling company. That's who we are. And also co-host of this esteemed podcast. My co-host is with me here as well, Robert Hurlbut. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, Robert Hurlbut. I'm a principal application security architect and threat modeling lead at Acquia, and fantastic to be here to do this again. We've done it before, and exciting to be able to be a part of this again.
Second time we've done this, and we also have another momentous occasion. We are joined by our first ever guest host. You'll know him from lots of places. This is Izar Tarandash. Hey, Izar.
Straight from the Security Table podcast. And
we bust him in because we have a very low budget.
I was just on the podcast next door and I just stopped and stepped in. But couldn't be happier than being back at the Application Security Podcast, a place where I've been a couple of times and that I so much enjoy listening to every single episode.
Awesome. And you will get a crisp $20 bill in your birthday card this year.
Yes.
Normally the birthday card's empty, but you'll get a $20 bill with it. So
I'll move
let me
to
set
Australia.
this up. Let me set this up. So OWASP reached out to us again this year, said, hey, will you host a debate / discussion with the candidates? Just going to give you the facts here, folks, because that's the type of podcast we are. I reached out to all 6 candidates. You will notice there are only 2 candidates present on the line. You can do the math after that. So everybody else was invited. Everybody had an opportunity. I didn't hear from anybody other than Adil and Lewis. And so they're going to get a chance to share with you more about themselves than they would have if we had all 6 people here. So time to jump in. So Lewis, I'm going to come to you first. My first question, it's not really a question. It's an invitation for you to introduce yourself, but also share your OWASP background. So what experience do you have with OWASP, from whether it's chapters or projects or committees or anything? I want to know more about how OWASP has been woven into your story. So Lewis, go ahead. You have a couple minutes to kick that off.
Sure. Thank you very much. I just want to thank you guys for doing this. I think it's very important to get to know the candidates before you cast your vote. If you cast your vote already, I hope nothing that we say here will make you feel bad about that. My name is Louis Brian Ricardo Griffith. I live and work in Bermuda. I do prefer Ricardo, but I go by either. So Louis or Ricardo, it's fine. I've been called worse in my life, so either one of those is good. So I've been with OWASP for the last couple of years. I couldn't tell you the number of years I've been with them. I would assume it's about maybe 7. Within that time, I've only served on the compliance committee. I did that for about 1.5 years. And from there, I actually ran for the board. And I've been on the board for the last year and about 8 months, I believe. Could be a little bit longer. I took over from Mark Curfey when he stepped down. I got the call and I was happy to serve, as I'm happy to serve again. Not too much of a varied history around OWASP, but I've also want you to know that I've been in the application development space for about 25 years. So I've been coding and doing great things in a bunch of industries during that time.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. I will now refer to you as Ricardo going forward. I knew that already, but I just forgot. Adil, coming to you. How about your introduction as well as your OWASP background and history?
Yeah, thank you for, first of all, thank you for inviting for this podcast. And I would like to introduce myself. So my name is Adil and I'm living in Finland. And I'm a member of OWASP since last 3-4 years, and I can't recall the exact number of years, but yeah, I know I have been there. And actually, my contribution to OWASP is not that in that sense that I have directly contributed to some committees or some board or some chapters, but yeah, I have made a significant contribution in the sense that I have helped organizations to improve their security posture by helping them to include OWASP top 10 and OWASP other OWASP frameworks in their security assessments and help them to understand how OWASP can improve their overall application security and the overall security posture of their organization. So that is what I love and I have done. And overall, I have more than 18-year experience in cybersecurity in both DevSecOps and compliance, and also working on some hands-on coding projects. So
Okay.
that is all about me.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Adil. All right, Robert, you get the next question.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I'll start with Adil. What experience, I know you've talked a little bit about some of the things that you've done with OWASP, but what experience do you have running an organization like OWASP?
Yeah, great question. So actually, I had an opportunity in past to serve as a member of board of directors of two non-profit organizations in US. One is Disability Sport International and one is Warrior Films. And then I have been a member of Vendor Advisory Council of CompTIA, and then I have also served as a external expert for European Commission's e-cost initiative, and I have also been part of many other standardization organizations. So, as a board member specifically, my experience in running the organization has been by contributing into the program and then finance committees, and during my term on the board. So we had to make some significant decisions regarding the allocation of budgetary resources, and then moving from the major fiduciary responsibility role to operational role, because when you are serving in some small or mid-size non-profit organization, so you have to be on the operation side as well. That is not that much of the board concern, but yeah. So, and then in the Vendor Advisory Council of CompTIA, I had made significant contributions by helping all the CompTIA members to contribute towards the mission of CompTIA. In that sense, I have contributed towards the board.
Louis, let's ask same question. I know you shared some of your experiences, but maybe elaborate on some other things. In running an organization like OWASP, what's your experience?
Sure. I've been on the board, like I said, for almost 2 years now. And during that time, I served as a member at large, and also I'm the current secretary of the board. So I do have experience running it right now. Prior to that, I have been on a couple of local boards, including the government Quango for a number of years. Where you same as a dealing with fiduciary things that boards do, and decisions on strategic matters. So I bring that experience to the board, as well as actual board experience on there. I do want to continue doing that. I believe that some of the stuff that I started needs to be completed. And of course, sometimes when you start something, it doesn't complete during your tenure. So that's why I'm running for the board again, because I want to make sure that anything I've started, I'm there to at least get it over that finish line. I also have many years of experience in application development. A lot of that time, I'm kind of a self-taught guy, but I do have background in a bachelor's of science in computer engineering. I have a master's, and I also have I'm working towards another master's in information systems as well, and I have an MBA. So I do have the educational background. I have a ton of certifications. I'm not going to bore you with them, as well as experience being on board. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks, both of you, for that answer. Izar, we come to your first question, except you're going to have to unmute if we hear you.
Okay, now can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So first of all, thanks for both of you for showing up. It's more than others can say, so it's already a leg up. With that said, I wish we had more of the newcomers in double quotes here, because some of my questions go very, very hardly that way. So Adil, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, you're going to probably feel picked on, but being a member of the board and something like OWASP means that you are going to be expected to have impact on a strategic level. Looking at some of the Meet Me pages that the candidates have put together and are available on the OWASP site, one can easily see that a lot of their proposals come off as extremely tactical. Things that one could easily point at and say, why is this a board thing and not, for example, an OWASP project? So I wanted to sound both of you a bit to understand, where do you see a role in the board as being tactical versus strategic, leading versus, let's say, not following, but sharing responsibilities, so to say. So who wants to take that first?
All right. So I've been a big proponent of trying to keep this board focused at a strategic level. I think we're all doing a great job. Everyone I've worked with so far is done an amazing job. And you'd be surprised. We hold a lot of public meetings every month, but there's also things we do behind the scenes that the public may not see. And those things range across a varied plane. Now, I did read some of the other candidates' profiles, and I do get a little bit of feel that, we got a lot of things that people want to do. But the board has to operate, you're right, at that strategic level. And I think that to do that, you need to kind of think differently, especially if you've been a person who has typically been more of a contributor, or, like you said, more of a tactician towards a business or entity. So you have to get that mindset out there. Now, I would say for myself is that the things I propose are mainly strategic. So I've proposed things like, going forth with new initiatives, because some may feel like, a board should just focus on, just getting money into the organization and then that's it, right? Now, there's more to it than that. We need to be very strategic with what we're doing. We need to be very purposeful for what we spend money on, and we need to make sure that the money that we do bring in is used in the right ways. That's part of that fiduciary responsibility I heard mentioned earlier. And so with that, we need to make sure that we have pillars of monies that come into the organization that don't rely on somebody else giving, because giving is not sustainable. We know that from COVID. That was I think, once in a century type event that really threw a lot of businesses and entities for a loop. Nobody was sure what was going on at first. People weren't giving money away. So we weren't coming together. So the events that OWASP had and the money that we expected to come in wasn't coming into the organization. I wasn't around in the board then, but I know for a fact that that's probably what happened to them, because it happened to a lot of us, even personally and professionally. So that's how I'll leave that question. I'll allow the other candidate to weigh in on this one.
Thank you.
I agree with you. I agree with you on this thing, because actually, as per me, the main responsibility of the board is to provide a direction to the organization, and it should be the fiduciary responsibility, and also board should also play an oversight on the organizational at the level of the organization. But it's not the responsibility of the board to run the operations or to write some directions or things for the management. So the management should do their own work, and the board, they should be only responsible for their oversight thing. And there is one responsibility that also lies on the board, is like to guide the organization that where they should head. So with regard to your fundraising efforts, or with regard to your strategic partnerships, so they can guide the organization that what is the best in the best interest of the organization and those people who are the stakeholders of the organization. So I think, that is what board is all about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since Izar teed this up, I'm gonna play off from his question here, and I'm gonna ask one question. I'm gonna ask a version of this to Adil, and I'm gonna ask a little slightly different version for Ricardo. So Adil, when you're thinking about your administration as an OWASP board member, and Izar just nicely teed up this idea that things need to be strategic. What are your strategic goals then for OWASP as a board member?
Yeah, so my strategic goal will be to actually expand the strategic partnerships horizon for the OWASP, and I think yeah, it's the time that OWASP should also go towards the players in the public management space, because we are actually right now focusing on corporations and corporate bodies and those. So we should also make them as a stakeholder of OWASP, and we can OWASP can play a very vital role in enhancing the security and posture of the public sector. So we should also take them as a partner, and with regard to fundraising as well. So I think that we should pivot a little bit towards that direction, and we should also partner with the with those big giants and the corporations who are using the OWASP as a tool for the enhancement of their application security posture, and we should ask them to play a more role rather than just using the OWASP, so they can make significant contributions, whether it's about creating the innovation hub, or running other projects. So we need funding and all those things. So I think we should move in that direction.
And so, Ricardo, I'm going to give you a slightly modified version of this question because you have a almost 2 year time on the board. What would you say are one or two strategic initiatives that you were able to move forward that you can claim credit for from the past board? And then also, I'll give you the opportunity to share what are you thinking about for this next term if you are reelected?
Sure. First, I would like to just say that I wouldn't use the word I. I would use the word we. No board member on the board, whether they're the chair or the vice chair, is more important than any other board member. The fact is that those board members actually have additional responsibilities, just like myself. I'm a record keeper, so that's my additional responsibility, but I don't hold any more responsibilities or any less than any other board member. And I believe that every initiative that we've put forward together. It was spirited discussions, and we come to a consensus, and then a vote is cast. For the ones that are near and dear to my heart, I tell you that one stands out, and that's with the Education and Training Committee. And I really want to push forth the idea of certifications. I believe that it's time for an organization such as OWASP to move forward and bring this certification deal to the public and offer it, because there's nothing like it out there right now. And I think it's something that's needed. Something that's been missing for a while, and all certifications do really is to establish that baseline, but it also allows people to get the training, get the knowledge that they need to help make more secure applications. And I believe that's something that's missing out there. So that's been a little near and dear to my heart. The other thing that we're in discussions for is actually expanding how we do, I want to say that we're thinking about more like advisory boards, and that's something I'm really pushing, to get in there, because, we might be missing someone who has marketing expertise, someone who has legal expertise. I noticed that a lot of the things that we're discussing we need to go away, talk with that expertise, and then come back and talk about it again. Well, in between that time is exactly that. It's time. And it takes time to, get some of these initiatives up and running. So I want to reduce that time by having the people that need to be in the room at the time that we having the discussions be in the room. So I'm really pushing for some type of advisory boards. I even said the expansion of a board. I don't think that was too popular with the current board, but I think the advisory boards are going to be a huge leg up for the organization to allow us to make quicker decisions, and thereby get these things these initiatives out even quicker into the spaces. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, Robert, your question.
Okay. Go back to Adil again. Let's see. What are your priorities as a board member, and what do you think should not be on the board's agenda?
Yeah. So, what should not be on the board's agenda, as I already mentioned, that anything that is beyond the responsibilities of the board, that should not be on the agenda of the board. So, operational things, and then even the budgetary things, and these should not be, to the extent of operationalization, it should not be on the agenda of the board. But if you are yeah, going to do an oversight as an audit or finance committee, or yeah, you are going towards giving the strategic direction, so then it's okay. But board should keep itself apart from those things. And what my priorities as a member of the board will be, so I'm as Ricardo also mentioned, so I'm also on the same path. So I believe in equipping our members, and then skilling up their skills by providing them not only the certification resources, but also some of the resources in the form of some innovation hub, or something like that, that can help them to bring more innovations from the OWASP platform, that can make the world more secure. And so we need to actually secure some of the resources from these organizations, like the corporations or the public bodies, and then and we should allocate the resources to our members through the innovation hub, and we should ask them to come forward and utilize those resources, and then bring out new innovations.
Thank you. And Ricardo, so you already talked a little bit about some of the things that you've done on the board already, but are there anything that just slightly different that you think should not be on the board's agenda going forward?
Yeah, actually of the same opinion. Not everything needs to come across the board. We have a limited time that we all gather together for public meetings each month. Each board member has their own full-time job. No one's getting paid here. So, we have to make the most of that time. And that time should be spent with the actual strategic initiatives and any oversight that we need of anything within that organization as well. Like I said, there are things that are that come up and that need to be addressed, and we just basically offer our support, especially to the wonderful, wonderful staff at OWASP. I know they work very hard at what they do, and anything we can do to lessen that burden on them. I think we tend to do that. So there's not anything specific other than we should just concentrate and focus on board initiatives and discussions.
Okay, Izar, your question?
Okay, so I don't know if I mentioned before, but currently I am sitting in the OWASP events committee. And events are a big part of OWASP, right? We have 2 globals every year. We have local events with local chapters. We have a bunch of other stuff that we are planning. And riffing off what I saw from some of the candidates in their who am I web pages, there is a lot of mentions of promoting more webinars, more online stuff, things like that. And I don't know, but personally, and I've heard from other people as well, since the pandemic, people have reached top webinar thing. Like everybody's like, I have webinars coming to Wazoo that there isn't one single day that I don't get 5 invites for webinars. So perhaps not quite where we should be looking. So again, straddling that divide between the tactical and the strategic. How do you see the board still being an open source consuming content organization, but giving advantages or benefits to members, to bring in that membership, to bring in those funds that are needed to operate, and things like that? Where do you see the board operating in that domain? And this time, let's start with Adil.
So actually, when it comes to events and driving the membership, so I think it's not directly the role of the board, but yeah, board can provide the advice on these things. And I think there is a need to expand the horizon of OWASP to those countries and those regions that are underrepresented, and we should engage the community members there, and we should also organize events there, and we should also so that we can bring them within the OWASP organization, and we can tell them about what we are doing and how they can benefit from the organization. But again, yeah, and this is not directly. I don't think that it is directly the responsibility of the board. But yeah, but board can certainly provide the right direction to the management.
All right, so I'll just take it from there. Thank you very much. So here's what I want to say. I think that OWASP should be visiting developer conferences. I think that we need to get that. And someone mentioned to me, I think during a board meeting recently in San Francisco, someone I highly respect told me that security wasn't the number one on developers' minds. And I really respected that person's decision at the time and what they said to me. But I had a little bit to think about it, and I'm like, it should be number one. The very first website I designed and put out there got hacked. I'll admit it. I didn't know much about security back then, and I think that I don't want any other developer to have that same feeling like they were taken advantage of while they were out there. So I want that same knowledge to be free. I want it to be available, and I want OWASP stamp of approval on it. And I think that if we go to these conferences and we start to bring more people in, we can have much larger events, bringing in more speakers, increasing the membership, and increasing basically OWASP's already great brand reputation that we have out there. And I want those things to happen. And so I've been pushing for us to be at developers conferences. I believe it's finally going to happen. And I hope whoever is elected, the new board members, will support that going forward in 2025 and beyond. I think that we should be at these things every single year. The last big developers conference I was at was the AWS one, and it was in Las Vegas, and it had about 60 to 65,000 people there. And imagine that type of exposure to the organization. I can only imagine it's going to be positive.
Okay, it comes back around to me. Let's move into the hard question segment. So Adil mentioned the funding as something that needs to be a priority for OWASP.
Sorry to interrupt you. Oh, he was reconnecting. Okay. Want to make sure he heard your question.
Okay. So the funding issue for OWASP is always something that's been an issue for the last decade or more, and it's probably going to continue to be an issue going forward. To the point where people left the board. Ricardo, you filled that seat, right? So everybody, I've heard for a number of years, we need to fix the funding model, but it doesn't feel like the funding model is any different than it was before. And so I'm curious to see, what would you push as a board to fix the funding model? The same thing that people have been saying forever. Like, how are we going to get corporations to pay their fair share? And I've talked about it on this podcast a number of times. People have heard me go off. This is a soapbox for me, right? People use OWASP in commercial products and they don't pay. So the idea that we're just going to, we need to find a funding model doesn't work anymore. We need to get more aggressive, from my mind. But I'm curious to see if you guys are of the same perspective. And so, Ricardo, I'm going to go to you first, just because you've been on the board, so you have less time to prepare your answer here.
All right.
Give Adil the second crack at this.
Yeah, no problem. So, there have been a number of ideas thrown out there. I think I like the one about grants. I don't think we've ever done that before. I could be mistaken, but it's something that I think would be an answer to that issue of funding. I like going out there asking for money, but I personally don't think it's that sustainable, right? As the economy goes down, there's less given. As funds become tighter, budgets shrink, there's less money from corporations, and then we have to rely on membership, and that's not going to quite do it if we don't grow that membership. And have that presence out there. The other thing is that, with free and openly sourced materials that we produce, it's just that we don't charge for that. That's part of the things that we put out there. So I don't think I have a silver bullet answer for this one. I believe that as we work on the board and as we agree and put our minds together, I'm sure we'll come up with more creative ways. I've always been one. I've run for the board a couple of years now, and I've always said every year that I want to hear from the membership, and I don't hear from that many people. The last conference I was at in San Francisco, I made it a point to walk around and try to engage in conversations with persons to see, what are their concerns, what are their ideas for the organization. And I had some wonderful conversations there with members and non-members. And I think that we need a way to tap into that talent as well. We have a fairly large membership, and even people who aren't members, they contribute to OWASP is great talent, great thinking. Like let's get together and let's try to figure out how we can do these things better. So those are my ideas on how to kind of address the issue of funding.
Okay, and Adil, I'm coming to you here in just a second, but let me ask just a simple question. Do you think, Ricardo, that OWASP needs to get more aggressive with people that are consuming OWASP projects and not contributing?
I'm not entirely sure aggressive would be the right word. And I'd really have to sit down and think about that one. Because I like I said, I don't have a silver bullet answer for it. So I'll just leave it right there.
Okay. All right, Adil, you've had some minutes to think about this one, so go ahead. Let us know your perspective.
I will not think so, because actually you have answered this question from my side. So we need to be more aggressive, as an organization. So I was about to say that those people who are using the resources but they are not contributing, so we need to be more aggressive towards them, and we can make it from premium to premium thing for them if they are not willing to pay in that sense. So because actually they people also realize the value of OWASP and what OWASP is providing them. They are utilizing it, and even they are using it extensively, not only internally but extensively, and even some organizations are using it commercially. So without changing our strategies, so I don't think that we can make them to pay. You can argue with them, you can debate with them, you can tell them, and they know more than us. They know what the value they are getting from it, but they will not. But they will not admit it. If they will admit, so they will just shy away from it, or they will keep themselves on the other direction.
Yep. So follow-up question, and then Ricardo, I'm coming back to you because I saw you have a response. But follow-up question, Adil. I want to understand, if you're elected for the board, you're sharing my use of the word aggressive. What would be some strategies that you would use to be more aggressive with vendors to ensure that people are contributing for the open source that they're using, that OWASP is investing all of this membership's time in? What would be some strategies you would suggest?
So actually, it will be a collective strategy, collective board strategy, not one-man show. So my suggestion to the board will be to change our model. Though changing the model will not keep us away from being open source. So but actually there are a lot of open source organizations or open source projects. Like, I will give you an example of Wazoo and many other tools. So they are open source. They were open source projects, but actually they did some monetization on that open source model, and they changed their subscription models. They changed their models to charge from those people who were using their tools freely, though they can keep using those tools freely, but they reduce the coverage of those tools and things like that. So I think collectively we can debate on it, and we can create some parallel strategy.
Ricardo, I think you, just by watching your expression, I think you have some thoughts that you want to share on this.
Man,
so
my
I'd love to get
expressions get away all the time.
We got some debate now. I wanted some debate in this conversation. We got it. It's coming right now, folks.
Well, I have to think to myself, if it's freely available, and it's, if something's freely available, like, why do people think that they should profit from it. I mean, we are a non-profit organization. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't make a profit, but we're non-profit. So our mission and ideals drive the foundation, not profits. So that's why I said I didn't want to directly answer that question, but I don't want it be out there that, we need to go after people because they're using, that's like going after, everyone using Linux. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, it's available. It's available to people to use. And I'm going to leave it right there again.
I guess I would counter, and I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Adil. Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just going to say, but the Linux market, that's kind of it's not an apples and apples comparison because they've monetized the heck out of Linux.
It's gray. It's the thing I thought of on top of my head. Sorry.
Yeah, people have made a lot of money. I mean, even Linus Torvalds is a very wealthy man these days who came up with that. So, Robert, we're back to you for the next question.
Okay. Well, we've sort of talked around about the future at OWASP and curious about your visions for the future, but also in particular, how do you plan to drive the organization towards that vision that you have for the future and in your tenure on the board? Ricardo, let's start with you.
Sure. Thanks. So in the next 3 to 5 years, what we need to do is to really, like I said before, tap into that talent pool. Without that talent pool, without that knowledge base of people providing input where it's needed, we're not going to get the expected output that we desire. So, we're an organization that runs a lot off of volunteers. So we have to really appreciate people's time. I do, during the board, also want to do something to show our appreciation to all those volunteers. So I'm hoping the new board comes in with some ideas, and I'm hoping that I get voted in again to help make that a reality. But for the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to take more money. It's going to take a heck of a lot of volunteers and time to get us to where we need to be. Alone, something like a certification is a lot of work. It's going to take some resources, and it's going to take time. It's not going to be 1 month we decide and the next month it's done. It will probably be a year or two before it's even out the door. So, we have to be realistic about what we want to implement, those timelines, and be very grateful and really grow our membership because, like I said before, we need those volunteers. We need that knowledge. If we grow our membership and tap into it, I think a bigger membership base will bring in the talent that we need, and really be appreciative of our volunteers.
Okay. Adil, same question?
Yeah, so my answer will be I agree with Ricardo on this, and we need to actually create some specialization path for our talent. There is Coursera, that is a very great platform. We can use Coursera for providing this specialization to our members, and we can also allocate resources in the kind of some innovation hub, because actually AI is there is now is the age of AI. So AI is getting momentum, and with AI, so the security space is becoming more complex and more dense. So we need to allocate some of the resources by developing the skill set of our members and developing our community to combat those challenges that AI and all other emerging technologies they are bringing.
Okay. All right. We're coming towards the end of our time here, but Izar, I'm going to give you 2 questions in a row to ask of these guys as our guest host.
To ask Ricardo.
So here's the thing. It's 3 a.m. Somebody comes into your bedroom, shakes you awake, and says, "Quick, what's OWASP mission?" What do you answer? Ricardo, you go first.
It's not to wake you up.
I don't know the exact mission statement. But
No, not the exact mission station. In your words, in your head.
Words. Okay.
Yeah.
In my words, we're a non-profit dedicated to securing the world. That'll be it. If you woke me up, That's my 30 seconds. But see, you got to ask a different question now because Adil had time to think about this one. So I need you to slightly change a little bit.
Yeah, but he panicked there in the beginning, so he had a bit of a deer in the headlight moment. So Adil, you, 3 a.m, somebody shakes you awake. What's the mission of OWASP?
OWASP mission is to make the world more secure by contributing the security resources in the right direction and towards the right objectives.
Okay, I'm going to have to think a bit about my second because I run out of my list. Oh yeah, I have one for each one of you, and I'll have to riff on the fly. So again, I wish we had more of the newcomers in here, but Adil, it's you. Have you ever watched a board session? They're public, they're on YouTube. And if so, what's your feeling of the dynamic there?
To be very honest, I have not seen, but yeah, but I will love to see because actually, yeah, it's some shortcoming on my own level because actually I was not able to watch through those videos, but actually the dynamism will be like the board should behave like a board. So if there is debate, so that debate should be on towards the strategic initiatives of the organization and for setting the strategic direction of the organization. So the board momentum should always be there, whatever the organization is, whether it is non-profit or whether it is for profit. So if there is no dynamism or momentum in the board, so then the organization will tumble.
Thank you.
It will tumble out of its mission. Yeah.
And for Ricardo, a different second question because he's already in the board, so it's not fair. So, with what you already know from the board, with what you have already observed in there, with what you already know from the time that you are with OWASP, OWASP is built, as you said, on its volunteers. And we have a bunch of committees, and those committees are responsible for all kinds of things. If somebody were to ask, well, actually, I am asking you, for 2 committees that don't exist and that you think should exist, what would they be?
Oh, that don't exist. Well, I think we've got some committees that we're going to discuss in our next board meeting. So first, before I answer your question, I want to invite Adil to the next board meeting. It's happening next Tuesday, I think at 1 p.m. Eastern. There's a link on the website. If you don't know it, I think we're connected on LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I'll send you the link directly. I want you to be at that meeting, my friend, so you can view it and see how that goes off. And whoever didn't show up, they're not invited.
No, I will be there. I will be
It's
there.
an open meeting. So to answer your question, we'll go back and answer your question, right? 2 committees that I think that are vital for there is one for funding. And that will concentrate on some of the things that I went over. Again, let's get the grants off the ground. Let's get more money into the organization. Let's think of creative ways that we can fund the initiatives that are at OWASP and the new ones that people haven't even developed yet. The new things that we aren't even doing. We need money for those things as well. That will be one committee. The second committee will actually be an audit committee. And it will go through and audit to see if the funds that were provided, the resources, the volunteers that are used, are actually being used in the most efficient and effective manner possible. I think these two committees are vital towards the organization. I know one for a fact that the funding committee is going to come up there, but I do want a second one, which is an audit committee, to come along who is their sole focus is to dig into the weeds and figure out what's going right, what's going wrong, and to figure out where those resources are being used. And then if there's resources that we can grab back, monies that we can grab back that are not being used appropriately, we need to put them in places that need those funds and those resources.
Thank you. Now, just quick follow-up question. Would you that audit committee's output would be public? Yes?
Absolutely. I believe that everything we have here is public as well. So I wouldn't hide anything in there unless it's something sensitive that we have to abide by a law or regulation. And I would say that we need to get legal advice on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to give each of you as candidates a final 60 seconds with no question. Just 60 seconds for you to leave our audience, who many of them are OWASP members, leave them with a final thought going into this election. So, Adil, come to you first for final thought.
Yeah. So, as a board member candidate, so I will say that I will ask you people to vote for me, because actually my vision is to make OWASP more vibrant and more strategic, and to move it into the right direction in which it should go. Because actually there are many things that we need to do, and we need to adopt some new challenges. New technologies are emerging, so we need to take up new challenges. We need to make sure that we are financially vibrant, and we need to take some more hard financial decisions. So I think it will be valuable if, as a board member, I can contribute towards the debate to set those strategic directions and to move forward the organization in the right direction.
Thank you, Adil. Ricardo, final word.
Yes. Thank you very much for putting this together. I think it was very helpful for our OWASP members. I would like to thank anyone who viewed our session and made it to the end to listen to this. I would ask that you please vote if you're a member. And if you're not a member, I think it's a great day to start that membership. Even if you don't get to vote in this election, I believe that you'll be part of a bigger community, and we welcome you with open arms. I also want to mention that, I get a little fearful when people say I, and I want everyone to know that I want us to go forward together. I think we're much stronger when we go forward together rather than one person saying that I can do this and I can do that. I get very fearful when I hear that. So I always look for persons and people who say we and want to do things together in collaboration rather than separate and you go do and I'll tell you to go do. That's not been how I operate, and that's not who I like to work with. I like to work with people who are team players, and I think that this is the way that we will move forward as an organization.
Very good. Thank you, Ricardo. So with that, we come to the end of our OWASP 2024 candidate debate. I want to thank again Adil and Ricardo for being here, for sharing your perspectives. I want to thank Robert and Nizar, my co-moderators, and I also want to leave our audience with that last challenge, which is if you're an OWASP member, get out there and vote. You gotta vote for the folks that you think are going to be the best to move the organization forward. So with that, as soon as you finish listening to this, go click on that link in email and cast your vote. Thanks.
Thank you.